2009, I lost my job. I became depressed, very suicidal. Someone else grabbed me and said, "Look, I'm a DEA agent. What are you doing in Liberia? How are we going to raise any capital? How is the business going to move forward if we give you 30% for
Yeah.
150,000, and then we give these guys another 30%? Then we've only raised about 300,000, and we only have 40,000. We only have 40% left."
Hey, Femi, thanks for coming on the show. How are you today?
Hi there, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on the show. So tell us about yourself.
Okay, sure. So I think I'll just start from the beginning. So my name is Femi. Femi is a Nigerian name.
Okay.
So my father is a doctor. When he qualified in Nigeria, he decided to move to the UK, and that's where I was born. So my background is in the context, I'm Nigerian, but I'm British, born and raised in the UK.
Where
I
in
went
Britain
to,
were you born?
I was born in Stockport.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the
Yeah.
United Kingdom. Is that north side, south side, central by
So Stockport is the northwest, so close to Manchester.
okay.
Yeah.
Continue. I was just
So,
curious. Yeah, thanks.
sure, no problem. So I was born in Stockport, born and raised there, and then eventually, after not really knowing what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
I decided to follow the path of becoming a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So studied, so got a law degree, then went to law school, graduated in 2002. After that, worked for a couple of law firms, and eventually went into investment banking.
Okay.
So
Let's
my
roll back a
corporate,
second real quick. You went to
uh,
law school. What law school did you go to?
I went to, it's now called the University of Law. So this is the main law school in the UK. Back when I attended, it was actually called the College of Law. So I graduated from the College of Law, Store Street, in 2001.
Okay.
Actually, no, sorry, 2002 I qualified. 2001 I graduated from Keele University with a law degree. So you spend a year in law school in the UK. After that, worked for a couple of law firms and then went into investment banking. Was in Hong Kong for about 7 years. And it was in 2014 that I quit corporate life. I quit investment banking and I became an entrepreneur. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 10 years now.
Okay. You worked for a couple law firms. What type of law were you practicing at the time?
So I must specify though that I was never a qualified lawyer.
Okay.
Uh, the system is different in the US. So once you go to law school,
Mm-hmm.
right, I believe you become a lawyer, but in the UK you actually require training. And actually, that there was a point in my life, actually. I think depending upon how old people are, they may or may not remember, but there was a financial crisis then in 2008.
Yes.
And at
Remember
that
it.
point, yeah, I received a verbal offer from my manager
Mm-hmm.
at a bank at the time. And he said, "You know what? We would love you to stay on. We want you to become, we want to train you to become a lawyer here." Now that was actually, I mean, it was pretty epic from the perspective that the majority of lawyers in the UK, they train in a law firm. And I was actually going to get my training within an investment bank, which rarely happens. So, I mean, so I went from here getting that verbal offer to losing my job.
Oh gosh.
And I was out. I became suicidal, and I mean it was pretty depressing, but it was a major turn in my life at the time.
Okay, so you worked for law firms, got an offer, or let's just go through the timeline with me. You were in Hong Kong. Was the investment bank opportunity before Hong Kong or after Hong Kong?
So at the time, I was working for an investment bank called HSBC,
Okay.
and that was in London.
Okay.
And they asked me, they said, hey, would you like to go to Hong Kong for 3 months? And I said, yeah, sure. So that's what led me to Hong Kong. So I was in Hong Kong for 7 years, like I said, working. I worked for HSBC and Morgan Stanley in Hong Kong. So two investment banks. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, Morgan Stanley is a US investment bank.
Gotcha. So, were you married when you went to Hong Kong, or was this like something you just told your parents, like, "Hey, I'm going to go to the other side of the world," and you were a bachelor and you just had the ability, the free time to do so?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what it was. 2009, I lost my job, and well, actually, let me go back a bit. So 2009, I lost my job. I became depressed, very suicidal,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, it's very strange because people say, "Oh, when you if you're going through something, make sure you talk to someone." Actually, the only thing that stopped me from committing suicide at that time is that I would be so depressed, my energy levels would be so depleted during the day that I'd actually just crawl into bed for an hour. I would fall asleep, and then when I woke up, everything just seemed better, right? And this happened for a period of 2 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
after a while, I was like, wow, I can't continue with this. And actually, I hated my job at Deutsche Bank. I hated investment banking. I hated the corporate world. And so in my mind, I thought, well, I didn't like this job anyway. So it would be a tragic shame if I were to commit suicide as a result of losing a job that I hated,
Just out of
right?
curiosity, like, what did you hate about the job you had at Deutsche Bank? Like, because that's a very particular like interest. Like, what I have had many careers myself, and everyone has something else. What did you hate about it? Could you give me some details?
Yes. I never had a desire to be a lawyer. I never had the desire to be in investment banking. In fact, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life.
Okay.
Right. Like I mentioned previously, my father is a doctor. I didn't want to become a doctor. I wasn't good at science. I wasn't good at maths. I couldn't do engineering. And so I just picked something that I thought was, relatively straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, let me just do this. And I basically just, that was just that was just how my life went,
Okay.
right? Just going from one situation to another. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do next. Okay, I'm supposed to study, get a law degree. I'm supposed to go to law school. I'm supposed to get a job, right? And that was
Mm-hmm.
just my life. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, you know what? I hate this. I can't stand any of this. And she would just say, yeah, life is boring. This is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always thought there was something wrong with me. And so I just kept on going. I was like, okay, maybe it's because I don't like this particular bank. Maybe it's because I don't like this particular boss. Maybe it's this particular job. But there was always something in the back of my mind about not enjoying my life.
Gotcha.
And so that was, I wouldn't say it is the job itself. I wouldn't say it's law. I wouldn't say it's the corporate world. It just wasn't for me.
So it was more of your mindset at that moment. And the you were feeling suicidal. You decided to leave Deutsche Bank. Um, or what's the
I
because
lost the job.
you lost a job at Deutsche Bank. You were not happy there
That's,
anyway. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. You want
yeah.
to yeah, you went to Hong Kong. What was it like being like obviously you were born and raised in New England, not New England, in United England. I can't speak today. And
United Kingdom.
oh my gosh. So um you're in Hong Kong. Was there a culture shock there for you? How did that the experience change your way of thinking, your way of life?
So maybe, I mean, actually, not a lot of people know the history of Hong Kong. But I think British people will probably be a lot more familiar.
Hmm.
Um, it was colonized by the UK, for 99 years, right? So the British ruled until 1997. So a lot of the ways, a lot of the systems of Hong Kong are very similar to the UK. There are a lot of expats there, so a lot of British expats,
Hmm.
American, French. So essentially, what happened is that I just imported my issues from London to Hong Kong, right? And when I say my issues, it was a lot of partying, a lot of drinking,
Hmm.
right? And so that's how I got by. I was like, wow, this place is crazy, right? I'm in a different place. I'm in Asia. It's warm.
Hmm.
I didn't care about my career. It was just right. This is one big party for me. And I used to say to a friend of mine, I said to him, I was like, you know what, this working is getting in the way of my partying. I said, I said this working is getting in the way of my vacation,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's what I saw it in my mind. All I wanted to do was party and forget about everything that was going on around me. And that's what I did. I blew so much money going on vacations, on alcohol, and yeah, that was my life. So not really a culture shock, although I did have I did meet a lot of local people,
Hmm.
and they became friends, and so that's how I got into the Chinese culture. But like I said, there's so many expats there that it was easy to assimilate.
Okay. So work experience wise, I know you were like on a mental vacation. Did you have any big projects you worked on that really kind of shaped who you were during that time being in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I mean, I always worked for large investment banks, for large law firms. So all of the transactions I was involved in were a major, right? I don't necessarily know if I can say any names for confidentiality reasons,
I understand.
but let's put it this way. I was when I was working in investment banking. I was work. Have you ever seen the movie Margin Call?
Margin call, yes.
Okay, so there was a point in the movie that they talked about ISDAs. Do you remember that?
Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
ISDAs,
No,
ISDA.
no, I don't remember that, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Okay, so ISDA stands for the International Swaps and Derivatives Association, and in order to be part of that association, the actual investment bank or the finance house, they need to have a significant amount of money, and they need to be involved in a significant amount of transactions, right? Up to, we're talking about multi-million, multi-billion-dollar transactions. So those are the types of transactions that I was part of, both as a within the legal department, as well as working with the trading floor.
Okay. What was your biggest transaction you worked on? Because you just threw out some very impressive numbers, and I'm just kind of curious. Did you remember one that was like the pinnacle amount that you're like, wow, I just did that transaction?
Um, Let me see. I mean, look, there were tons, right? Because these so ISDAs are they are these so for example, we put in place one of the first ISDAs that I negotiated with, that I negotiated was a subset of Lehman Brothers. Now I
Okay,
don't know if you remember Lehman Brothers,
I do.
but that one was very significant because I think the date with that was it would have been around February 2008 that I closed that I put that particular ISDA in place,
Hmm.
and it was significant for me because it was my first one ever. But then also when Lehman Brothers collapsed as a result of the financial crisis, every person in the bank was looking at that agreement. And I remember not being able to sleep for 2 weeks because I thought, in my mind, I was like, wow, if I made some kind of mistake, the bank is going to lose billions of dollars and it's going to be my fault. right?
Yeah.
I literally 2 weeks, I didn't sleep because I thought, if if this collapses, that, it's all on me. But look, all of these investment banks, I mean, I work for Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, HSBC, all of them do multi-million, multi-billion dollar transactions on a daily basis. And I have to say, I am just part of I'm just a cog in the wheel in
Hmm.
putting all of these transactions in place. They're not my transactions. I'm just negotiating these agreements for the traders that are doing these massive deals.
Gotcha. How long does a negotiation go for? Because you're talking to someone that's not in your industry. I'm just kind of curious. And there's probably listeners that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it really depends on the complexity of the agreement. But an agreement can take anything from, I mean, look, 3 months to sometimes even 2 years to put in place, right?
Wow.
And there's legal terms in there, there's finance terms in there, there are technical, operational terms in there. It's just a big old legal document, and boring as hell, but it was my life.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, you were there for 7 years. You sounded like you were doing these amazing transactions that are like out of fiction novels and nonfiction novels that you hear about. Um, why did you end up saying, okay, I don't want to be in Hong Kong anymore?
Um. So I quit investment banking in 2014.
Okay.
So I was 2010 to 2014. I was working in Hong Kong in investment banking.
Hmm.
So in 2014 to 2017, I was an entrepreneur. And I have to say, I mean, I had a really tough time assimilating and finding my way because when I quit investment banking, I had no plan. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I
Hmm.
had um, no business in place. I had I didn't save. I was just like, right, I can't continue with this anymore. And I just handed in my resignation. And people said to me, hey, well, what are you going to do with yourself? And I said, look, I have no idea. I just know I can't stay here and I can't just keep complaining every day about how much I hate this place. And you know what as well? I was a terrible employee. I mean, I was a bad employee. I mean, look, I was involved in these transactions. I
Hmm.
knew what I was doing. I just didn't like it. And so I was like, you know what, I have to get out of here. And like I said as well, the drinking as well,
Yep.
it was just becoming excessive. And I got into some precarious situations
Like
as
what?
a result of drinking too much.
Could you share a
And I was
few of
like,
the
you know what?
situations with us?
Yeah. So, wow, a couple of dangerous bar fights, right? That people talk about bar fights and they glorify them, but some people die in these bar fights, right?
Hmm.
Um, you know, some of them were pretty serious, being drunk enough to almost getting run over, um, blacking out and just waking up in bed, those type of things, right? And just the the overall just for my overall health, my
Hmm.
condition, I was like, look, I can't, I just can't continue like this.
Gotcha. So,
Yeah.
you were doing that, and then um, you you were still feeling suicidal at that time, or were you finally kind of turned the corner when you said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and then those feelings subsided, or were they still there?
So yeah, I mean, I told part of that story. So essentially, what happened is that I felt suicidal for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, but during this time of not having a banking job,
Hmm.
that's all I was doing. I was sending out applications all day. I'm like, look, I need to get back into banking, even though I hated it.
Hmm.
But this is what I was programmed to do. So I'm sending out all of these job applications, and there's nothing out there. Right, the market just dried up. No one was hiring, and so I was like, right, okay, I'm just gonna get any job, right? I was just like, right, the first job that comes along, I'm just going to take it, right?
Yeah.
And I this job, I was selling insulation, home insulation. It was a sales job, and I was terrible. I was absolutely terrible at it. And I was making. I mean, just think about the timeline, right? I went from getting this verbal offer at a bulge bracket investment bank
Mm-hmm.
to selling insulation, right? And I was so bad that I didn't make any commission, but I was making about £50 per week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is I don't know what about $65? Yeah, $65 a week. I mean, it was pittance, right? But it got me out of the house,
Uh-huh.
and it got me out of that cycle of feeling sorry for myself, feeling depressed, and so the to answer your question specifically, the suicidal thoughts. I mean, it was kind of just going up and down. It was up and down. Okay, and that's where the drinking came in and the partying, right? Because it just numbed the pain,
Gotcha.
right? It numbed the pain. I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I can go out and party. I can drink and I can forget about it. So that's how my life was for a long time.
Okay. So obviously you were feeling lonely. You didn't have like a relationship in your life when you were in Hong Kong, or did you have a girlfriend on and off, or where were you at with that on your social life side of things?
I did. Um, I had a few, but nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Uh, Nothing concrete. I would date a girl for a couple of months here and there, 6 months here and there. That was the situation, but I was still a party animal. I would still go out and pick up other girls. So yeah, I mean, I was just pretty wild and out there the entire time.
And how
And
old were
like I
you
said,
around this time? Were you like in your 20s or 30s?
I was in my 30s, so I'm 44 now, and 2010 I moved to Hong Kong. So I was there from 30 to 37.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you had a business there for 4 years. Did you revive that business, or was that kind of like your learning business? Because I know first 5 years businesses don't make it on average. Um,
Yeah.
and in some, like most people after 5 years, they just kind of give up. And that's before like they get that hockey stick growth of referrals and everything starts like getting the momentum they were hoping for the first few years. Tell me about that business.
Oh my goodness. I was involved in a range of different businesses. I'd get involved in something, it would either collapse or I'd get bored or I wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of things. I was involved in a lot of different things at that time, trying to find my feet, trying to understand exactly what I wanted to do, trying to understand business. Like I said, I mean, my father's a doctor, my mom is a nurse, my sister's a doctor, aunties, uncles. So I come from a long line of doctors, a long line of people that have the walk that path of go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married. They're all Christians. So a lot of things that people hear in the media about Nigerians are, about fraud, right? But actually, I think a lot of that is, it's incorrect
How
because
so?
most Nigerians are actually very conservative, religious, so Christian, Muslim, and so that is what all my family are like: conservative and Christian, right? So it's not and a traditional profession. So most of my friends are in finance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these are Nigerian friends that I'm talking about. Most of them are in finance, and most of my family are doctors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So with that backdrop, I didn't have a concept of what entrepreneurship is. I didn't have a concept of what business was. My father couldn't give me any insights into that. Neither could my aunties, my uncles. And so I was just out there figuring it out, trying different things. At one point, I was trying to do physical gold trading, right? Because a couple of friends of mine back in London, they were involved in metals dealing. And I also met a gold trader, physical gold trader in Hong Kong. Actually, that's a pretty interesting story because in 2015, we flew from Hong Kong to Liberia. Oh man, I mean, it was such a crazy trip. I remember they didn't first of all they didn't want to let me into the country because I hadn't taken a yellow fever jab, and so they forced me to take that in the airport. And then immediately I finished there, he someone else grabbed me and said, "Look, I'm a DEA agent. What are you doing in Liberia?" And I was like, "DEA agent?" I thought it was something out of a movie, right? Because anytime you hear DEA, that's drug enforcement agency. So I thought he was
Yeah.
American. Yeah, that's the first thing that came to my head. It was 4 a.m. in the morning, right? And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? He's a DEA agent. And I was like, well, what's the problem, man? I just landed in the country, right? I'm African, just like you, right? And he pulls me aside. I mean, it's a funny story because the guy, my client that I was with, he's German, right? He's German. He's Caucasian, right? They just let him through, and I'm the one that you stop. I said, "What the hell, man? I'm African. What's going on? I'm home. You're supposed to be giving me a hug." But he was evidently he was trying to extort me for some money, and that didn't work. But that was a very interesting trip because I wasn't sure I was going to come back from there alive,
So how
right?
did you know
Because
he was trying to extort you for money? What did he say? What did he do that like when he was talking to you?
so like I said, I mean, it was about 4 in the morning. I was in a good mood because I was living in Hong Kong, and I'd flown to Africa. I was like, look, I'd never been to Liberia. I was like, look, this is going to be fun. Um, and so what I came to later find out, right, is that because I flew there on my Nigerian passport, Nigerians have a bad reputation in Liberia, right? And so that is why he stopped me. And what he tried to do is he actually tried to take me. Um, he said to me, "All right, come into the office." And I said, "No, I'm not going anywhere. What do you want?" And then after he saw that I refused to do that, he said, "All right, come into the alleyway." I was like, "Dude, I'm not coming. I'm not coming with you into any alleyway. Let's stay in public." And then after going back and forth for a while, the guys that invited us over eventually walked into the. I mean, I hadn't even gone through the gate yet. I
Hmm.
walked through and he said, "Look, we invited him," and so that's how I was able to get through. But yeah, physical gold trading and the commodities business is one of the areas I was in for a while. But I really didn't understand the business that well. It's actually a very tough business to be in, and so that didn't work out for me. So I did that on and off for a while, but I was doing some consulting. So I was a startup advisor to a couple of startups back then as well. So essentially, that's what I was doing. But like I said, I was trying to find my feet. And so I really didn't know how to monetize the business. I didn't know how to market myself effectively. And so it just didn't work out. And so eventually I was like, look, you know what? I'm going to go back to London. And so I went back to London for 3 years. And I was back in London from 2017 to 2020.
And do you, at that point in time, do you shut the business down? What were you doing in London for those years?
Yes, so I went back to London. I got to spend a lot more time with my mother. I was fortunate enough to hang out with my nephew.
Hmm.
I mean, he's yeah, he must be about what is he? He must be about 9 years old now. But I babysat him a lot, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was still doing consulting. So LinkedIn marketing, I did,
Hmm.
as well as like working as a business growth strategist. So still the same as startup advisory, but very specific.
So who
Um,
was your target when you were saying like I'm gonna have these like this consultancy, I'm gonna have this advisorship. What was your ideal business that you were looking to try to get to that could afford to pay you what you wanted?
yeah, so it was mainly, I wouldn't even say it was medium enterprise. It was small startups.
Okay.
So yeah, typically small startups, solopreneurs, etc. And I would work with them to giving them some coaching on different business strategies, different growth strategies, and that's who I was working with at that time for the 3 years I was back in London.
Okay. Um, what was the most successful strategy that you shared with them that you're like this, I say this and I see results, but what were like the top one or two things that you constantly knew were getting people some good results?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's what I'm actually doing again now. So I mean, I closed that business down for a while, and then I've actually gone back to it because, like I said, I was doing startup advisory. I was doing coaching entrepreneurs, etc. And I would say it's LinkedIn. So just understanding the concept of LinkedIn. So what I see a lot of people now, and actually a friend of mine called me the other day and he was like, "Oh, I want to go on. I want to open an Instagram account and a TikTok." And I said, "Dude, don't bother, man." I said, "First of all, you are 40 plus,
Hmm.
right? And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's more of a young man's game." Now, don't get me wrong. I think IG and TikTok, they do have their uses. But I really said to him, I was like, look, I don't have any expertise there, right? My expertise is really LinkedIn. That's what I focus on. And those are the strategies. So I gave him I broke down a strategy for him on LinkedIn. And I'll just share that with you quickly. So he's in finance, right? So he does financial management. And so what he does is he works with high net worth individuals and corporates, right? And what he does, his specialization is options trading. And so he comes up with a lot of strategies. I mean, he's been doing this for I've got to say maybe 15 years now. And in fact, he tried to get me into options trading back in the day. And I started doing the course that he was doing, but then I lost my job at Deutsche. And I was like, right, that's it. I've got no more money. I can't pay for the course. And that's how I stopped. So yeah, the whole thing came full circle. But like I said, he's doing that. And so I said to him, I was like, look, what I recommend that you do is that you build, and this is the strategy really, you build your personal brand and you build your brand on LinkedIn, right? And the way you're going to do that is, first of all, you need to optimize your profile on LinkedIn, right? So rewrite it, tailor it to your ideal clients. And then you need to put out content pretty regularly, right? So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm putting out one piece of content every single day,
Okay.
right? So I said to him, look, maybe you don't have time for that, so pick maybe twice a week. So put out content on LinkedIn twice a week. Then I think you should also start a website, a personal website, right? And this is the personal branding. So you can just call it your name, right? And then because one thing he wants to do is he wants to sell to the retail market as well. So
Gotcha.
he wants to sell courses to the retail market. And I said, you don't want to put that, you don't want to mix both your corporate and your retail. So make them separate. And the example that I gave him was, have you ever heard of a guy called Robert F. Smith?
No, it does not ring a bell at the moment. Could you explain who that
Okay.
is?
So he's American. He's a black guy and he's a billionaire. In fact, he runs one of the most successful hedge funds in the world
Okay.
called, yeah. So Robert F. Smith, he used to work for Goldman Sachs, and then he went out to start his own shop called Vista Partners, I believe it's called. And that's the strategy that I said to him. So I was like, look, this gentleman has his own YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
He has his website. And he also has his own LinkedIn profile where he puts out content. Now, if you look at his platform, you'll see that he doesn't get a lot of views, right? Now, I just told you this guy is a billionaire and no one is watching his content, which is crazy because he's a bona fide billionaire, right?
Yeah.
You'll get people on TikTok, on and IG who will be like, get 5 million subscribers in 5 million followers in 5 months. But dude, do you have any money? No, right? And there are
Yeah.
people who are getting these views. They're like, oh, I have millions and millions of views. So I said to them, don't think about the views. Just think about putting out the content and putting out regular content, which is going to educate your ideal clients. And a lot of them will read your content, but they won't necessarily engage. But at the time that they need to, they will come and find you because you've already done this work in giving them all of this, all of this free advice, so to speak. And then based upon that, they will give you money. And one thing that I said to him as well, a part of the strategy was putting out a lot more video content so people can see you, they can hear your voice, they can hear your tone, your mannerisms, etc. Now, maybe, and again, I don't really know the statistics, but maybe 80% of people will watch your videos and be like, oh my goodness, I hate that guy. I cannot stand him, right? But all you need is that 20%.
Yep.
Right? Maybe you get 20% and one of those people are like, all right, here's $50,000. There. And that is the strategy that I laid out for him.
Okay. So in reference to, you did that for a few years, you put it on the shelf. Why did you put it on the shelf, and what did you switch to say, like, you know what, I've done this, I might be getting burnt out, or there's this other opportunity that looks like it might be more lucrative and fruitful. What was it, and why did you switch gears at that time?
Well, part of that was that I moved back to Asia.
Okay.
So I moved back to Asia I landed in Jakarta on the 1st of January 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, look, I want to travel across, I'm going to travel across Asia, right? And then we all know that 2 months later, the pandemic happened.
Yep.
I was stuck I chose to be stuck in Bali.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of why the business went on hold, because no one was really sure what was going on in the world. Everyone was trying to figure things out. And then everyone thought, hey, this is going to last a few months and then everything is going to go back to normal. But that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so the world was just kind of, milling around thinking, hey, is this the end? Oh, they finally got us. Nobody knew if it was the government that released this or if it was some kind of alien invasion or something. Because really, we had no idea, and they wouldn't really tell us what was going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, come to find out that they knew, they just didn't really want to admit it. And there were some people who used it as an opportunity to make a lot of money. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, that's why I kind of put that on hold. And then I met someone. I met a friend who was involved in the healthcare sector,
Mm-hmm.
and he started. We started talking about healthcare data, and then taking it to Africa. And that became my mission for the next 18 months. And so that's how I kind of got away from that business. I wish I didn't. But yeah, that's what I did for around about 18 months to 2 years. That business, that actually was going in the right direction. We spoke to a data. We had because it was a data analytics business, healthcare data. So we
Gotcha.
found a healthcare data provider that was based in South Africa, and then in fact, I found them. So we got this. We did a deal with them. They said they'd give us this data. We said, hey, we want some capital. So we were going to raise some capital through them. And because, like I said to you, my family are doctors. So through a lot of my connections, we were taking this particular business to Africa, and I mean, I was confident about the business. It was like I said, it was going in the right direction, but I think startups, especially with founders or co-founders, can be very difficult because people get off track. And they say, so my co-founder actually went and found a job, right? So he went and found a job, and that's how, and then he actually left Bali for a while. And that's how that business actually collapsed. A learning lesson, but definitely fun while it lasted.
Were you making money in that business before it collapsed, or was it just like a where startup bootstraps all the way?
So this was a very, very traditional startup in the sense that we had to raise money for the business, right? So we had to we required data, number one, and we had to raise capital, and so like I said, I mean, I was a startup advisor. So one thing I was doing, I was reaching out to a lot of friends of mine who were in the finance space, and I was telling them, hey, this is what I'm involved in. Would you like to get involved? Would you like to invest? Because I was the co-founder and COO. So that was my duty. Go out and find some people to raise capital.
So you were finding silent angel investors, more or less.
No. I mean, I was involved in the business, right? But part of my task was to raise capital, right? From investors.
Gotcha.
And so that's what I was doing. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, it was just as we were doing we were raising the money, right? And this was all from my friends and family that I thought, hang on, this could go terribly wrong if we were to collect all of this capital, and all of these people were to lose money. And so I slowed it down for a while, and I really reassessed the situation, and I was like, well, if he's got a job, then you know what, I don't want to take people's money. And so I put a hold on it. And then there was also an issue with the company that we're raising money for as well. They said they were going to give us, I think it was about 150,000, but they wanted 31% equity in the business.
Okay.
And that didn't make any sense. It really didn't make any sense because it meant that we would struggle to raise capital in the future. And part of the problem was that they were not traditional investors. They were a company.
Like, could you explain the difference between a traditional investor and like a non-traditional investor?
Yeah, sure. So a traditional angel investor, they understand that when you raise capital, you have to be cognizant of the cap table, which is a capitalization table, right? So let's say, for example, you give me, let's say you give me 150,000,
Okay.
right, at 30%, right? Then the business is valued at about $500,000. Right, but that starts to kill the cap table because the next investors coming up are like, well, we want on par with what the other investors are giving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just didn't make any sense. So we went back to them and we're like, look, how are we going to raise any capital? How is the business going to move forward if we give you 30% for
Yeah.
150,000, and then we give these guys another 30%? Then we've only raised about 300,000, and we only have 40,000. We only have 40% left.
Yeah.
And so they really didn't get that. They wanted to, all they thought about is, okay, we'll have a controlling stake in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it would also be an issue because, like I said, I was also raising capital from my friends. And a lot of those guys are traditional angel investors. So they would have turned around and said, look, well, that you got money, you gave these guys 30% equity in your business at this valuation. Okay, well, we're not coming in. And so that's what killed the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just kind of started to put things, the relationship between myself and my co-founder, it started to sour for the fact that, like I said, I just felt that he wasn't doing as much work as I was doing, because that's one thing that actually kills startups, right? So it's like being in a marriage, right? You're like, oh, well, I'm doing all of this work in the marriage. I'm taking care of the kids, but you don't take care of the kids. Why? I took care of them for 5 hours this week. You only put in 30 minutes, right? And those strains started to show in the business. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take any capital from my friends, because if the business were to collapse, all of them are going to come back to me and say, hey, what happened? Yeah, it started to break up the business, but no, we didn't actually make any money, because, like I said, part of the issue is because he decided to move out of Bali. And initially he said to me, look, I'm going to be gone for a month or two. And I said, okay, fine. And in the end, it ended up being about 11 months. And I just thought, and also he was in the US, right? So the time difference as well.
Yeah.
It just became such a strain. And like I say, he also had a job as well, right? So it just didn't work. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Are you still friends with him, or did you, like, after that business kind of dissolved, your friendship kind of dissolved with it?
Man, I mean, I tried. We did remain friends, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, part of me wishes that we never did it, right? And I think that's a lesson learned for a lot of people, right? Family and friends and money don't always mix, and I think you have to be very, very careful if you have some kind of idea, and you do it with your friend or family member, actually any co-founder, because actually that's one of the main reasons why a lot of startups go their separate ways. A lot of the co-founders they can't seem to get along, right? After a while, you're seeing this person every day, and sometimes it starts to become strained. So, for example, my uncle always tells me about this. He's a doctor, actually, but he has an entrepreneurial streak. He started importing goods from China and then putting them online to sell them.
Yeah.
So he's like, man, he was doing well. So before there was Amazon, him and his friend were doing this business, right? And the business was doing very well. And then his friend turned around and was like, oh man, I just got this other job. I'm not going to do it anymore. And my uncle was trying to convince him. He's like, no, we need to stick this out. We need to stick this out. And yeah, it didn't. He ultimately stuck to his guns, took that job, and look what happened to Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, it's all about not giving up sometimes. You just keep on pressing forward and you're successful. So,
Right.
you wrapped up that chapter of your life. Then you went back to doing the advisory consulting work again, or did you do something in between that? Or, like, where were you at that point?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, I'm running two businesses. So the first one I started previously, which is curating and organizing wellness retreats in Bali.
Hmm.
And then I just went back to well, I mean, it's a business I've been doing for a while. So essentially, business consulting for startups. Um, Now I say startups, but this time I think I'm going to extend it to medium-sized businesses as well.
Okay.
So along the way, I always work with medium-sized businesses, but my bread and butter was always the smaller businesses. But now as I expanded, I'm going to move more into the arena of working with medium and larger sized businesses. And so I'm testing it at the moment. And there are 6 areas that we focus on in this particular business. The name of the business is Fortune. So Fortune with a V. So let me see if I can remember it off the top of my head. So it's website audit and optimization, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn optimization and strategy, email marketing, lead generation, SEO, and then content marketing and strategy. So we're going to cover all of those 6 areas for the startup. Now, of course, we um, the goal is to actually do the implementation of this as well, so that the actual entrepreneur can focus on their business. So we will come in and we will like, look, we need to do an audit of your website for SEO purposes. And then the goal is actually work with them for about 6 months at least to get them right. We need to figure out ways to grow your business properly. So we're going to do a full audit of the business. And what I'm going to do to actually promote the business, I'm doing free audits,
Hmm.
right?
And
Or not.
do you use tools for
Uh,
the audit, or is it like your back knowledge from a few years ago that you have to sort of make those audits be successful?
no. We're actually going to use tools for the audits. So different SEO tools, different LinkedIn marketing tools, different content marketing strategy. So the goal is to actually make the results measurable as well. So okay, you've grown from A to B, so that people can actually see the process. All right, we put in this amount of backlinks, etc. Right, so that people can actually see these measurable results. Because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it doesn't work if you're just telling people, right? So like, okay, look, for example, one metrics that you can follow on LinkedIn is how many profile views are you getting? And how many profile views have you gotten this week? Actually, LinkedIn does give you those metrics. Right. If you go on the home page and you look to the left, you'll see those metrics right there.
Yep.
So how many profile views are you getting and how steadily is it going up? How many how many impressions are you getting on your content? So those are the kinds of things that we're going to mark. And essentially what we'll do is we'll put in place a Slack as well as a Google Docs and Google Sheets, so that we can chart all of these things throughout the 6-month period that we work together. We will actually, let's say we get a particular lead as a result of the email marketing. So we'll say, look, this is the name of the client. This is their email address. This is their their website. This is their
Hmm.
phone number. Right. Okay. Now you can go and call this specific person. And then we rely on the client to give us feedback. Okay. As a result of that, you paid us, let's say, $3,000 per month. Right. How much did you get from that client? What was the value of the deal? Value of the deal was $300,000. Okay, that's a good ROI on your investment. Right. So we want to make sure that all of those results are tracked, all of the analytics. What's the open rate on the email marketing campaign? All of those kind of things will be tracked so that everyone is on the same page.
Okay. Now you say you have a we, so I'm assuming you have a team of people. If so, how many?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now there are about 3. Well, there are 3 people on the team, but we are going to bring on board a couple of other people to do things like the SEO analysis, as in full time. When I say bring on board people, so the SEO analysis, actually doing the the implementation of this as well,
Hmm.
because we need to go into people's websites and change descriptions and meta tags, etc.
Yeah.
Um, and also the email marketing as well. I can talk for hours about email marketing, but for me, it's a time thing, right? I don't want to sit in front of the laptop tracking, doing DNS records all the time, right? Putting in place DNS records, warming up emails, checking the bounce rate and the open rate, etc. So it'll be for those, I would say, manual tasks,
Hmm.
right? Because we also need to produce the reports. We need to have conversations with clients. So all of those kind of things, we will be bringing other people on board so that we can expand the operation properly.
Okay. I know what's becoming very popular right now is AI workers, and do you have any concerns about that in reference to this business venture that it might become phased out in the future because there's AI workers that do a lot of different things? And I want to get your insights versus a robot AI worker versus someone like yourself and even myself. We're both people, like we're living, breathing people. Um,
Yeah.
can you talk about that?
Yeah, only to the extent that I understand it, because I don't fully understand AI. Now, I've tested a lot of AI,
Hmm.
different tools, but I have to say they haven't worked for me,
Really?
right? And again, I think part of it is I don't necessarily think I don't think AI is at the point where it works really efficiently yet. That is my estimation. Um, I think there still needs to be a lot of human intervention into what AI is doing now. And I also want to make the distinction that true AI, doesn't really exist yet. Now, what we have is we have LLM, which is
It's
learning
learning model.
language models.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have all of these systems that are programmed to do certain things.
Hmm.
But for it to be AI, it needs to be autonomous, right? And so, although people are saying it's AI, it's not really AI yet. At the point where I can give the robot a task and I can go away for, I don't know, a month
Week. Oh yeah, a
and
month,
come
however
back.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still doing that task efficiently. Okay. Now, like I said, I don't understand it as well. But like I said, I've tested it, and every time I do test it, it just doesn't work as well as I would like.
Okay.
Now, fast forward though, I would say that technology um, is a positive thing for humanity,
Hmm.
right? The reason that I believe that it is positive is that we should be able to program um, machines to do tasks for us. So, for example, you're in the States, all right, and I'm in Asia, and we're
Yeah.
able to talk to each other,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is technology that is doing that. I also have a laptop, right? I can go on LinkedIn, I can communicate with people. So I think overall technology is a positive thing. Unfortunately, um, most of the technology that we have available to us is used for negative things, right? So wars, for example, I have this intelligent missile and I can fire it over there and it's going to kill 500 people. Oh, is that it? I have, my missile can kill 502 people, right? So unfortunately, that's what technology is being used for. But I would love the day that there is a step up in AI that is real AI, because what I think it will do is that it will enable our minds to do other things, right?
Okay.
Um, and I think
Like,
that
what
is
would that
the
be? Because like there's an ongoing conversation of like I recently watched the Simpsons episode where they were teaching the young people in the Simpsons episode to do side gigs. and like
Yeah.
this is like doing get someone's groceries, get this, get that. If we're
Yeah.
taking a lot of the knowledge worker tasks and giving that to like AI robots, what's it
Mhm.
for us other than saying, hey, I'm going to go into a contractor type business and paint walls and build a house or something, just as an example, where do you see it being and going?
Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting point, but I think we also need to look beyond working for money, right? And I think that I think when I think we start to get into philosophical areas now, but I don't necessarily think that we came here to work, and we didn't come here to work for money, right? Maybe we did come to work, but maybe we're like, okay, I enjoy doing this thing, and therefore I'm going to do it,
Hmm.
right? And you have situations where people are like, oh, I have to work because I have to earn money, right? And I think that's the mentality everyone has. I have to work for money, and I'm again. I mean, it might be, um, yeah. I mean, perhaps there is a future where all of these robots are doing these tasks and making money for us, and we're like, okay, well, I need to lose 5 kilos. I can go to the gym,
Hmm.
right? Or I can Um, I want to travel more. I want to spend more time with my family. I need to focus on my mental health. Oh, I want to make clothes, or I want to design ways to make the AI more efficient,
Hmm.
right? And hopefully, and I believe that's really what technology should be doing for us. Um, the bulk of research and development into technology is killing other people, right? If we could divert those funds into actually working for us, then we wouldn't have to work. I mean, look, I mean, it sounds very utopian, but I think I believe that the technology is not supposed to be us or them, right? I think that technology is supposed to work positively for us. But like I said, I mean, we have, and again, I want to be careful. I'm not saying that all of us are into this because I don't have any beef with any of these, all of the wars that are going on at the moment. I don't have any, I don't have any dog in the fight,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right? I mean, I think 99% of us on this planet, we don't have any dog in the fight. And
Okay.
I believe but there's some people who are making billions, trillions from these wars. And just to bring it back to your point, I think if this technology was diverted, if all of this money and resources were diverted into the right area, then all of this technology would be positive for us as humanity.
Okay. How long do you think, out of curiosity, because you have this business, you're doing consulting and advising, um, do you see the trend for like a social media worker to be in play before it's like we have a sentient AI out there where they could say, okay, that can do it for you, and the need to have like a team of 7, 20 people goes down to like I have 3 or 4 in like 20 AI workers from your perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I don't know enough about AI to comment on that, but
Okay.
I know that it is definitely getting better. So I read about this AI, so a dog collar, right, that you could put on your cat,
Yeah.
and you can talk to your animal. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I mean, right? That these are the positive things that are coming out of it,
Well,
right? And I
would a
think
dog still be a man's best friend if he could talk back to you?
I have no idea. It's like, man, I hate you. All of these years, I'm only with I'm only with you because you can feed me,
Well, that's
right?
that's that's really cool. So, the business that you have, how long has it been profitable for? Do you have investors for it? Like, what was your restart model for your business?
No, so all of these businesses were bootstrapped, and I mean now I caution people to raise capital,
Okay.
right? I'm not saying raising capital is a bad thing, but you know, we always see these startups, right? Startup scale ups in the media, and they're like, oh, this one raised 40 million, this one raised 100 million. Maybe they actually needed that money, and that's a good thing. But I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of people that raise capital and they waste the capital. For a lot of people, they can actually start a business and start earning money pretty quickly, right? And in those kind of situations, really, all you need is a website. Maybe you don't even need a website. Maybe you just need to go out and tell your friends and family, right? So there's a book that a friend of mine was reading by Alex Hormozy. I'm not sure if you know him. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's the latest flavor of internet marketer, and he you know he put the book 100 million leads. But the only reason I bring that up is that he was like, look, contact 100 people a day,
Mm-hmm.
right, and tell them what you're doing, and I guarantee you that even if your product or service is not that great, but you can contact 100 people a day, just on the just on the balance of probabilities, you should be able to make some money. Now, if you want to scale your business really fast, that's the only reason why you really need to raise capital. Or if there's any specific equipment that you need, or you need to get a specific patent and that costs some money, or this, you know, some kind of specific IP. But I would caution people to raise money because um, it doesn't always work out well. And a lot of people also start off by raising money from friends and family, and they will ask you about that money. I mean, you're sitting at the dining table, and it's a year later, and they're like, "Hey, you know that 10,000 that I loaned you? When am I going to get it back?" Right? And this is what I was saying, actually, going back to my point before, right? A professional investor
Mm-hmm.
will not do, right? Now, if your initial round is from family and friends, then maybe they're going to come back to you and be asking you all the time, "Hey, what happened to my money? Hey, can I come in and talk to you about the business?" You're like, "No, no, we're working on it," right? A professional investor is not going to do that. But of course, you still owe them the money, right? You have to, they want a return on their investment. And so for these specific businesses that I'm working on, I don't need to raise capital for them because, like I said, I run wellness retreats in Bali, right? So clients come to me, they say, "Hey, we're coming to Bali." We put together an itinerary for them. We'll, you know, we do things like pick them up from the airport. We book the villa. If they want any activities, yoga, meditation, surfing, etc., we put all of those things in place. So essentially, this business is really just about project management, right? But the I guess where we do it differently is we just project manage better than other people who are doing the same thing. Now, I'm sure there are people out there that, you know, they have a more efficient system in place for
Yeah.
organizing these wellness, and they're making a lot more money from me at the moment. That is fine, right? And then my other business, so again, I don't need to raise capital for that particular business. The other business is growth strategies for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, that business doesn't require any capital. My other business, like I said before, which was healthcare data, that required raising capital. But these particular businesses don't.
I have
So
a question for you. Based upon like our conversation entirely today, your background is in investment banking. You're an entrepreneur. You seem like you're a very good entrepreneur, by the way, and you're coming along and doing good things. But you have a very unique skill set, which is actually be able to find and secure investment capital for companies that need it. Why did you decide to do these businesses that you spoke about versus saying, "I'm going to do a consultancy for the businesses that truly need this investment capital and work with them and charge a higher premium?
Okay, so my business is not actually helping people to raise capital. I
I,
mean, I
I
don't.
understand that. I understand that. But my question was, why don't you have a business that is exclusively to help raise capital for companies that do need that need? Because it seems like you're an expert in that aspect.
Well, actually, I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as an expert in that. It's not really my expertise. It's just something that I had to learn as a result of raising capital for my businesses at the
Okay.
time. Um, if, but then, I mean, we can have a brief conversation about raising capital. Um, it is not as straightforward as most people believe.
Hmm.
The majority of businesses in this world that actually raise capital, they have connections,
Hmm.
right? That's an that's an unspoken truth in the startup world. A lot of these guys already have connections. If you don't have connections, what I would advise is you join an accelerator program, right? So you have some great accelerator programs out there. So you should join one of those. And if they were to accept you, the accelerator itself will give you, let's say, $120,000 for 7% of the company.
Hmm.
Um, so that would be the route that I would go down. Then there are also angel investors as well, who there are these angel investor groups. Now to answer your question specifically though, I don't believe that you should hire someone to raise capital on your behalf, right? Unless you're raising hundreds of millions, right? In that case, you need an investment bank. Um, it is the duty of the entrepreneur to learn how to raise capital, right? You need to go and sell your business to other people. And that also involves selling it to investors so that you learn how to sell your business. Because if you can convince someone to give you money to invest in your business, then you must have a pretty good business. So that's what I would advise people to do. Don't go and find someone who can do this on your behalf. It's something that you should learn. There are courses online free. You can Google angel investment groups. There are local angel investment groups. You can email them. You can give presentations online like this, or you can meet them in person. A lot of it is just having a conversation. Oh, what is your business doing? Oh, my business does this. How are you going to monetize your business? Okay, well, how many clients do you have already? What's your ROI? How is your business growing month on month? How is it growing year on year? How does it compare to other businesses in your sector? What is unique about your business? These are the kinds of questions that an angel investor at the basic level is going to ask you. Or you can start with a family and friends round, like I talked about as well. Go to your family and friends and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. I've already put some capital into it. And if you can convince your family and friends to believe in you, that's where I believe people should start. If you cannot raise capital, do not raise capital. Bootstrap your business and actually sell your product or service and make money that way. That's what you should be focused on. Read Alex Hormozi's $100 million leads, right? Learn how to market your business effectively, right? Learn how to, you can tell 100 people about your business for free, right? It's not difficult, right? In your phone book, there are how many people? Go up to all of them and say, hey, I'm doing this business. Are you interested? No. Do you have a friend that's interested? Okay, maybe a friend of a friend. And build the business that way. Don't automatically think because you see someone raise $40 million that you should be raising that kind of money. Most of the time, it is a very, very, very small percentage of startups that are raising that kind of capital.
Okay. Well, this was outstanding. I mean, we could keep talking for hours. You have a wealth of knowledge. I think we've tapped into such a good deal of it. and you have some great businesses. I'm glad you shared them with me and the listeners today. And thank you very much for coming on the show. This was great.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I enjoy the conversation as well. Actually, for me, one more tip before I leave:
Yeah.
podcasts. All right, that's a great way for you to go out there and tell people about your business. Right. It's and your listeners are based where predominantly?
All over the world, a lot of them in America, but they're coming from everywhere. So it's kind of
Well,
nice.
there you go. I mean, the majority of your listeners are in the States. I'm in Asia, right? And this is a good way that you can, the people that you can share about your business, right?
Yep.
And it's also a good way to produce content as well. So
Mhm.
right now, we're both producing content. I can write maybe a long form article about this podcast when after it releases. Maybe I can write short form articles about it. Maybe I can clip some of them, right? And that's how you can get your business out there. And I would say the number one thing: don't always think about I need to go and raise money, right? That's not the way to build a business. Think more about, okay, what can I do for my clients? How can I help them? How can I tell them about my business? And actually, my business, Fortune, like I said, I'm going to be doing free audits for people, right? So that's one of the ways that I'm promoting it. So I'm going to do a free audits for people so that they can give me feedback, right? So I do the audit, I tell them about their business, and I say to them, hey, well, what do you think about my business? How can I improve it? You as an entrepreneur, what would you, how can I turn this? Okay, I think you should do it that way. I would like this, I would like that. And that's how I'm going to get feedback from them. And at the end, I'm going to say, hey, here's a link. If you want to make a donation based upon what I did, you like the value, make a donation. If you don't, can you tell someone else about my business? And again, these are just different strategies that you can use to spread your business around. Because look, I'm giving someone my time for free. I'm
Mhm.
telling them about their business. I'm actually giving them value. So they can tell me, well, I mean, it was terrible. This is how you can improve it, and I'll say, okay, thank you very much, because in the end, we both kind of win. So yeah, just another tip for you there.
Well, thank you. Everything has been valuable. Thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you very much. Take care.
This episode was made and produced by i4 Web Services. Visit i4webservices.com to learn more.